Welcome back to Next Level Rides. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to take your headlight from this to this. So stay tuned, we'll get at it. Name of the game for today is we're going to be refreshing my buddy's headlights. So these are some super rare Honda, Maserati, Ferrari headlights. So I need to be extra careful with these and not wreck them, not drop them. So I have this one all tied up on the bench, so I can't end up dropping it, and that way I can get up and around and apply equal amount of pressure. So first things first, we have soapy water. I think this one is extra soapy. Reason you want the soapiness or bubbles or whatever is when you spray it and you start wet sanding it, all the dust and grit and stuff that comes off the headlight will stick to the bubbles. So for each pass, you can wipe it down or you spray it to rinse it off. Being that this is flat and not on a vehicle, I'll probably flush it fairly frequently. If it was on, for example, like the 540 here, when I did it on here, all I did is I masked it off and I did the front of them. It was easier because the water kept beating off of the face of the lens, but for this it won't. So, soapy water, I use a 3M headlight restoration system kit thing that goes on the end of a drill. I used to hand sand these. And you would start, depending on how bad the lens is, with like 400 grit, then you go up 6, 8,000, 1,500 to, you know where I'm going with this. Along with this, I'm going to finish it by hand with a 3,000. And then because they're lenses, I always use Meguiar's PlastX or plastic, anyways, whatever, it's for plastic. So this will be the finishing one. So it's a clear plastic cleaner and a polish. So this will make it look really good and it will make it really clear. Now, the one thing that you need to consider is for a lot of these headlights, in the plastic or in the lens itself, it'll have a UV coating. So you may notice that after you wet sand and you end up polishing the headlight, that shortly after it starts to yellow or haze. So once you end up refinishing the headlight, a lot of the time what you're gonna have to do is put a UV coating back onto the headlight. Now, whether that's through an aerosol spray or maybe like a resin kind of thing. He does have, I believe it's called diamond coat. So once it's all nice and clear, he's gonna put diamond coat to it and it's gonna look fantastic. So these do have some fairly decent surface scratches and a lot of cracking on the inside. No, not really cracking, but you can see all the surface scratches. First things first, I'm gonna end up cleaning it and we're gonna go from there. Okay, so I'm just gonna wipe it down with a little bit of soap and water, or that soapy water. Reason being is I don't feel like sanding bugs into the lens. All right, so there's that. Now the drill I use is just your, 18 volt Milwaukee. So I tend to use the #1 setting at first, do a couple of passes, see how it's going, and like a vehicle, kind of do it per quadrant. So you can do like the corner here, and you can do one up here, one here, and the backside. Or you could do the top, the bottom, the middle. Just make sure you know where you've already passed so you have the equal amount of passes when you do the headlight. Okay, so, this will be the buffer. So this is the one that you end up using when it's time to polish it. And because this is Velcro, I'm gonna peel that one off. All right, so we have, this is 3,000, okay, yeah, so it has it. This one is 800, 800, yeah, so this one looks like a 500. All right, so this one here, we're gonna start with a 500. Now, this one is still pretty good, so I'm just gonna check to see. Yep, so sometimes you can see where the sandpaper is just not as gritty or not as coarse as it used to be. Yeah, these are okay. So, I'm gonna apply this right to the middle. All right, and the same thing. Flush the headlight and we'll begin. All right, so now we'll flush it. Key thing to remember is do overlapping passes, and you'll notice it looks like, oh hell, I screwed up the headlight. But what we want to look for is that all the surface scratches are somewhat gone. So you'll end up seeing where the sandpaper was a little bit coarse, and obviously you went over, you want it to be even. Now, obviously, because it's not on the car, it's a little bit harder to do this, but just make sure it's nice and even. For the most part, it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it one more time. So, flush your pad, more soapy water. And we're going to do one more time. So again, overlap your passes. So if you do one like this, make sure you overlap it halfway. Now, you don't have to apply any crazy pressure. So sometimes you may need to slow it down. Because this isn't the main cutting one, I'm just going to go a bit slower. And because the drill is essentially the equivalent of a rotary polisher, you want to be careful not to sit in one place too long because you can burn the lens. So get your squat on, hold it good. So around this contour, I'm going to go over a couple of times because I noticed that the pad was a little bit uneven. Whew, it's like an arm workout. So a lot of the time you can actually reuse these. So I'm just going to keep that to the side. Flush it just a little bit because you don't want the garbage to dry on it. And take the majority of the crap off the headlight. Inspect it quick. Yeah, it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a light spot here. There aren't many swirls and scratches there, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, so now we're going on to the 800. So the higher the number, the finer the grit. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next one. Now, I thought there would be something to bridge the gap from 800 to 3000, but it doesn't look like it. I wouldn't have expected that. I don't know, it's been a while since I used this kit, so we'll see. So now we should start seeing in the opposite direction, like it's starting to look more clear. So what this is essentially doing is starting to polish the headlight. So again, I would not normally jump from 800 to 3000, but Meguiar's knows better than me. So the only thing I see is there's one area right through here that I want to concentrate a little bit more on. A little bit too hazy. It's looking pretty good. Actually, if you look at it, I haven't even done PlastX on this. So the finish is really clear, or sorry, really smooth. And this is just with a little bit of water on it. So it doesn't look like anything too crazy. But if you look actually to the factory one, you can see all the hazing on it. So it's already looking a lot better. I'm just using kind of like auto Windex kind of thing. All you're trying to do now is just give it a wipe to get all the soap residue off, because the next one is the actual PlastX. Give it a wipe. Now obviously you don't need to use this mitt. I just use this for everything. Good thing to note is that one is full of suds, and you don't want the foam to be full of suds. Let's make sure it's dry. And we're gonna put on the final buffing pad. Now I've used this a couple of times. I should properly clean this, but yeah, see, it's okay. All right, so now you can see a little bit of the haze coming back, just when it's dry and it doesn't have any liquid on it. Ooh, that is not the proper way to apply wax or compound. Okay, so don't apply it like that. But when I do, at first I'll smear it throughout and then go slow, because everything's dry. So what you're trying to do is just get the compound onto the lens. It's roughly how much I like to apply. Okay, so now once it's even, you can start going over it a little harder. As you can see, it's starting to get shiny. Good old, big old carbon fiber towel. and give it a wipe. Now this is just one pass, so obviously I'm gonna end up doing a second pass. Now this is just gonna give me an idea as to how much more I need to go. Now again, he's gonna be putting diamond coat onto it, so that's gonna be another layer over top. So the same as when you were to spray water on top of it, where it gives it that really nice glossy finish, that's what diamond coat will do. So I'm gonna go over this one more time. There's a couple of lower spots that I'd like to get rid of. All right, so it ended up turning out all right. I mean, it's never gonna be a brand new headlight. And under these LED lights, it's gonna look worse than it actually is. Woo, let's not drop it. But it's really not that bad. All right, so this one turned out pretty good. I don't need to bore you with how to copy and paste for the other side. So I'm gonna do that off camera and I'll show you the final result. So as you can see, it really wasn't that bad. You're just gonna put a little bit of effort, elbow grease, and then you can make them look a lot better. Now, I didn't go too crazy with this. You can definitely start with a very aggressive sandpaper, do a hand sand, starting at about a 400 even, to make them extremely smooth and extremely clean and stagger up with the grit on the sandpaper. But for these and for what he's wanting, these will do perfectly fine. So just a quick job. I think after it's all prepped and whatnot, if it's on a car, you could probably just tape it off and have it done in under an hour if you get really good. He's gonna diamond coat these and go from there. And if anyone is wondering, I shaved my head again because it's later on in the day. So I didn't just put this on the back burner like my other projects, I promise. As always, feel free to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Calm down. Cut that out. Where is it? Where's my spray?